Hello everyone, Cannon here, and it is mid-November. Another month has gone by, so naturally another CannonChat video to record. Now, I have kind of waited until the mid part of the month because of a few different things that I'm going to talk about today. So, I am playing World of Warplanes again because it is doing 5 times experience for the first win of the day until November 16th, so within a few days. And I have to say that 5 times experience in World of Warplanes is very imbalanced, especially with free XP boosters. So I guess since I needed to restart the game, I can't show any of the results, but for tier 10s especially, or just high tier aircraft in general, if you do well with them, you can get like 15 to 20,000 experience, and then with a free experience booster you can get triple or quadruple the free XP from that. So I've gotten a few games that are like over 3,500 free XP in one game, and I have over 140,000 free XP. Partially from that, I think I got 60,000 from this event alone. So I am going to finish that up before it resets here. Recording fairly late or early in the morning, depending on how you look at it. So I'm going to play my Tu-12 bomber here for the 5X. So, what has been happening lately? Well, me and Warmonger have restarted the Path of Exile to level 100 series, which I'm not sure. I think we decided to do that after I did the last CannonChat, so this might be the first time mentioning it. And I have to say that both me and Warmonger agree that that series has been very enjoyable to do. In complete honesty, I was sort of worried that we have gotten a little bit too serious in the game and focusing more on efficiency rather than having fun, but in complete honesty, I think both of us have really enjoyed the game more when we're playing together, and also not really taking the game as seriously as we probably would otherwise. And it, in my opinion at least, it has been going very well. I would say probably before we would come up with better jokes, like depending on the situation, because we were fairly unexperienced with the map gameplay. But at the same time, though, I would say it's still quite good. So if you are at all interested in Path of Exile and me and Warmonger's journey to level 100, well, we restarted that, and even though we are playing in new characters compared to what we were last time, I would say it's more enjoyable in the fact that we aren't constantly dying, in all seriousness, because that was a big issue with the old characters, was that since they weren't really all that great, in all honesty, especially by these days standards, they weren't really suited for high level maps. So whenever we would try a high level map, we would die quite frequently. Our characters would die quite frequently on those. So since we're a lot better at making builds, that is what I would mention about that. So besides that, I finished up Half-Life 2 Episode 1 on hard, and I will say though that I'm not exactly sure why it is. I think it's, while I'm recording, it doesn't feel as bad in the moment in comparison to how it actually sounds when I record. Like, it sounds, for that game kind of specifically, I'm sure that there's other games that I have done that were in the similar fashion, but it almost seemed like I didn't really seem to be all that loud and have super high energy in that. So I don't know. There really isn't anything I can do about that, especially now, but it just seemed like I thought that I put more. I thought my voice would sound like it would have more energy than it did, or be, I guess, more enthusiastic, for lack of a better word. Which is kind of a shame, because I actually thought that the commentary specifically on that was actually on the better side, actually. Bombing run on the mining plant. And let's see if I can actually shoot down this guy. He's on fairly low health. And the Russian bombers actually have guns. While they aren't super fantastic, they can get the job done, for sure. And I think there's only this smokestack left. Okay, I guess there's nothing. Sometimes World of Warplanes, unfortunately, kind of does this thing where it doesn't actually show you that there's a structure that can be destroyed on a certain thing, but okay. See if I can actually take out this ground attacker. He critically damaged me, so... And he has quite a bit of health left. But there we go. And he's really gonna ram me, okay. Usually bombers, if you get into a ram, unless they're another bomber or something, you pretty much take hardly any damage, and they get completely destroyed. And the one bomber that I killed exited the match prematurely right away. I think that was a really bad move. And that has been happening quite a bit, actually. When somebody gets destroyed fairly early on, they seem to quit the match fairly early before anything is really decided. Pretty much, he probably figured that I would get the mining plant right away, which, I mean, kind of, but not really. Their ground attackers actually did quite a bit of work, so I think that was a bad move on his part. Okay, but getting back more on topic. So Half-Life 2 Episode 1, that was quite fun to play. A good short project to do, and I'm still thinking about doing at least one more project besides the besides Portal. I mean, do one more project, which will probably be Portal, before the end of the year, when I do Alien Isolation, because that is for sure when I'm gonna be doing it. So we almost have taken their... Oh, I guess we did take it. Alright. Sweet. Took their command center. So that's probably still going to happen. Me and Warmonger still need to record more Path of Exile, so that's why there hasn't been a video upload every single day, or every other day, because I ran out of footage. So that's where we're at right now. We just need to do more of that. So whenever a good time presents itself, we can do more. And he hasn't. He was gonna craft the gloves that I needed before we record again, and I think that might be a reason he hasn't even started that. So, which is fair. I still haven't actually started the review of Resident Evil 1 Remake, or I haven't even done In Passing, which until somewhat recently I didn't even think about that, because usually for games I do a playthrough of them and then I do a review of them, or at least ideally that's what I wanted to do with the channel, is put my thoughts out in a review for each game as soon as I beat it, in order to have the most recent thoughts of the game and everything in the forefront of my mind while I do a review of it. And unfortunately, I haven't really been in the mindset of doing anything. It just kind of seems like these days, time has been just going super fast. It just seems like days just keep on going so quickly that it's crazy. And I think part of it is that with the amount of games that I have been somewhat invested in, they pretty much all have like daily stuff to do, that if you don't do them, then you, of course you miss out on goodies. Well, the problem with that is that pretty much like as soon as I do all of them, as well as if I want to watch any YouTube videos that I'm interested in, or live streamers, then basically watching one stream as well as doing all the daily stuff plus eating, and that takes up the whole day. So that has pretty much been my schedule lately. And at the very beginning of the month, me and Warmonger actually took a trip to somewhere for vacation. Basically, just the two of us for a boys' trip, and we were basically visiting all of the restaurants near where my grandma lives. And that was honestly really refreshing to do, because that was over the week of the election for the United States. So if you don't live in the United States and you are unfamiliar with United States politics, we do a presidential vote every 4 years. And the maximum term that a president can be in office is 2 terms, so a total of 8 years. So Donald Trump was up for re-election, and Joe Biden was the main candidate to run against him. So that's what was going on over November 3rd, I do believe is the exact voting day, that Tuesday. So I was out there with Alex, with Warmonger, to just relax and everything, and it was super refreshing because of the because we weren't in an area where we really needed to worry. Like we kind of brushed politics aside and not really even pay too much attention to all the stuff that was going on, because I kind of knew, especially with this election, that it was going to be full of drama, basically, in a sense. So that's kind of what I figured, and quite frankly, that is exactly what happened. So I was very glad to not exactly be like directly worried about that. And also, basically not needing to worry about anything was also quite nice. So that is a reason why I haven't done this video until now. is because I was on that trip until the beginning of this week. It was like 5 or 6 days we were out there. And it was really funny that we were watching Netflix shows, and we found an old show called Sonic X, and it was just... It is technically a kid show, but it was cheesy in the best ways. And it was absolutely hilarious. But more on to channel stuff. So yeah, I still need to work on that. The review stuff and everything. If I'm still going to do that, I'm still planning to. It's just a matter of actually doing it. I think one of the hang-ups for me personally is that I kind of wanted to have like custom thumbnails or custom artwork for those reviews, and unfortunately I am still have no idea how I'm gonna do that, if I am going to do that. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. If it gets too long, I'll just have to change the thumbnail later. Unfortunately though, with Resident Evil 1 Remake, because of how the game was, I kind of feel like my thoughts on it have been fairly negative looking back on it. And I don't really think that's really completely fair, because it did so many things right. It's just that it had a lot of little things that added up over time to make it incredibly tedious to a blind player. And so, like, I wouldn't say all my thoughts on it, but I would definitely need to review, like, the footage, my old footage, to kind of refresh myself on that, because that's pretty huge with that. And then in passing, I guess I just really haven't thought of anything. I mean, I quite frankly kind of forgot about it for a while, and then when I thought of doing a review of it, I'm not really entirely sure what exactly I would say about the game. Like, it does a lot of things good too. And it was a pretty good experience overall. But it definitely, I wouldn't say it was the perfect game for me personally either. And then if I want to do I'm gonna do a review of Half-Life 2 and stuff eventually, but I'm not really worried about that now, because pretty much Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 2 Episode 1 was pretty much the same as I remember it years ago. So my thoughts on it wouldn't have changed, I don't think. But yeah, like, that's definitely on the list of things to do. And not only that, but by the time I actually do a review of Resident Evil, I'm going to be playing Alien Isolation, and then I'm going to have to do a review of that. So yeah, that's definitely something. Oh, he was killed outside of the zone. This middle site. Come on, ground attackers. There you go. That's what I was looking for. So that's on the back burner. And then Portal 1. It's definitely something that that I want to do before the end of the year, before I do Alien Isolation. Unless I just do Path of Exile stuff until the end of the year, which wouldn't really be a bad idea either. But yeah. That is kind of where we're at. And yes, I know there's a 0 on me. There he is. Oh, this thing's much better with the upgraded guns. Nice. So what other things have been going on? I think that's pretty much the gist of it. In complete honesty, I just don't know what exactly I'm gonna do as of right now. Just throwing ideas out there at this point. It's kind of interesting for a J8M to go after a bomber like that. Okay, P47, you want to be next? Or the J8M? Yeah, you better speed away. The P47, yeah, this P47 needs to be shot down. You're done. Oh yeah, and then I was gonna actually talk about World of Warplanes a bit. Reason being is that World of Warplanes, after having just about a year of no updates at all, has finally gotten an update. It's crazy, I know. It's kind of unbelievable. I think a lot of people thought it's like, oh, does Wargaming just not want to do anything with World of Warplanes anymore, or what? Because, yeah, like I said, there was a year without updates. Like, think about that. Think about a multiplayer game that theoretically relies on content increases, content updates, and World of Warplanes has been limping along without one for a year. I don't know, that's just crazy to me. And then they finally they did an update, and basically all it did was add a new premium plane, you know, go figure. But at the same time, though, the fact that they are actually willing to do updates for the game is quite frankly more exciting than not, because the game isn't completely abandoned, you know, besides putting out like 3 times experience every weekend and like really small events. Like, that's pretty much a staple of World of Warplanes at this point, is doing the 3x every weekend, pretty much guaranteed. Which is something that I don't think... I'm pretty sure World of Tanks and World of Warships do not do that. So, they have at least that, and especially considering that you progress faster in Warplanes, that is greatly appreciated. But the other thing, too, is that they are bringing back some game modes. And those game modes are the Bomber Escort one, as well as like an attrition game mode, which I'm not entirely sure what that means. And stuff like that. So I was planning on making an individual video of that specifically. Because in complete honesty, I think it's since I enjoy World of Warplanes as I do, I think that like that is something that personally I would want to cover. Kind of like the Armored Warfare stuff too, is that I know that these games aren't super popular, but at the same time, since I am interested in them personally, I want to do updates occasionally for those games. So that's kind of my reasoning on that. So, any other planes I want to play? I could play the Hunter. But personally, for World of Warplanes especially, I am really excited for them to add more planes. Like, for an example, the Japanese heavy fighter line, there's probably a possibility of at least adding a tier 8, which is because Japan were trying to develop their own Me-262 from visiting Germany, so that could be the tier 8, and then just have like hypothetical upgrades to that as the tier 9 and 10. That would be pretty cool. And then the tier 8, 9, and 10 United States bombers. And from the sound of it, there are plenty of British bombers too, so they could add more on that front. Like, there are just plenty of aircraft that they could still add, especially since World of Warplanes does not restrict itself with only having existed aircraft. Like, if they can find a blueprint of something to justify adding it, and if it'll add something to the game, great. But as of right now, I still think the specialization system kind of ruins the experience to an extent. Like, if they would have made it so that if you're a specialized plane and you only fight other specialized planes, or something along those lines, I think it would definitely be better. But at the same time, it's, I don't know. I guess I'll play the FJ1 since I don't have the Sabre yet, so I'm not only playing aircraft that I already have everything unlocked for. Because I've pretty much been playing the tier 10s with boosters on, because they typically gain more experience, and that has had great success. But yeah, so that is certainly something I want to throw out there as well. So, I think that's pretty much everything that I covered, that I specifically wanted to cover. But before I end it here, I want to throw a few things out there. Like, just throw out some ideas out there. So, for any of you who have been watching the Path of Exile to level 100, or at least the recent ones, I have mentioned about virtual YouTubers before. More specifically, like the HoloLive English would be the most specific ones that I've ever talked about. And I was kind of thinking to myself, what if I made myself a virtual YouTuber with a specific, like, old English style Templar personality? Like, just to throw that out there. Like, I don't know if I could really pull that off, as well as I'm sure getting a model for it may not be the easiest thing to do. But if I was, now I probably wouldn't make all my content of that, probably because, I don't know, I kind of see that as, depending on how easy it is to use, that may or may not be something that I would want to do all the time. But just throwing that out there. And for the Minecraft Let's Play, or Minecraft series, it's not really a Let's Play, because even though that I do plan on defeating the Ender Dragon, which is typically like the last thing people do before they end a series, that's kind of where my plans start with Minecraft, ironically. But anyway, I was thinking of possibly trying to have that personality that I was talking about, an old English style commentary. Now, that would require a lot of work on my part, So that's why I would say I'm not entirely sure whether or not I would be able to pull it off or like it. But I just kind of felt like throwing that out there for the people that watch this and give any feedback if they are interested in that sort of thing. And just to clarify, if you do not know what a virtual YouTuber is, it's basically where someone uses a, more often than not, an anime style avatar to, instead of showing their real life appearance for everything. So, well, instead of having that instead of a webcam, basically. And of course the J7W2 kills it before I get there because the FJ1 is the FJ1. So, if any of that intrigues you, for the few people that watch these CannonChat videos, give me some feedback. That would be greatly appreciated. So I think with that, before I start rambling on something else, I think that's where I'm gonna call it for now. I'll finish this game first. I'm trying to turn with the stupid key 90 something, and then ramming. Always nice. Kill this guy before I get destroyed. Leave me alone, please. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't destroyed me yet, to be completely honest. There we go, finally. So the FJ1, it seems that people quite like this plane, or at the very least they like the Saber after it. Because it's supposed to be fast and maneuverable as well as having high altitude performance, but in complete honesty, this aircraft is not fast enough, or at least not specialized. It isn't fast enough to actually be useful, if that makes sense. Like, it has high altitude performance, but it doesn't have the speed to really utilize it all that much. Unless you're using your boost cooler all the time, I guess then I guess, but it's mainly the guns that I really despise on this thing, and it sounds like most people are in agreement to this, that they really don't like the guns. And that is because it's not really because of the firepower of them. I think that's fine. It's primarily the range. Having to only have 2,000 feet range is just a joke, frankly. And since this thing isn't fast enough to keep up with stuff, or at least this stuff it's supposed to be good against, you're just kind of in a limbo, to be completely honest. And so you have matches like this where you just can't really capture enough stuff. Because it isn't it just doesn't cap well, I guess. Or at the very least it's not very good against like other players specifically. And I probably need to go to the stupid mining plant. And well, we're gonna lose this one anyway, I'm sure. The only way that we can somehow win this is if we get both mining plants and destroy most of their team when the squall line hits. And that rarely happens. So, or at least it doesn't happen when when it's on my team. So this thing can go 500 miles an hour, like 450 kind of consistently, but you kind of need to be better than that with this range. Like, it's just not enough. I'm sure if you specialize it, it's fine, but or the Saber. The Saber sounds like it could basically be what this thing should be. Quite frankly, be able to do what this thing should be able to do. But yeah, I am finally able to. I'm just really tired of these games where I'm a fighter and I need to go to the mining plant because of this. Get out of here, ME262, finally. You need to do crap like this. Like, normally, if there aren't any enemies, well, even if there's just bombers or ground attackers, like, this thing isn't... Well, it's actually decent against bombers, actually, surprisingly enough, but it's just... it's just really annoying in this game, where mining plants especially are so important, or especially early game, that if you don't help the mining plant, you're just guaranteed to lose. And that is really frustrating because more often than not, I'm playing an aircraft that can't influence the stupid mining plant. Unless you are killing aircraft, which, well, if the enemy has both the mining plants and they don't have any aircraft in it because they own it, there's no reason to be in there, then you're just basically screwed, honestly. And we did have the airfield, but of course the enemy took it because they have like a 1092, which is actually really good for capping. Like, it is like some of the best fighter guns in the game. And I absolutely love the tier 10 after it. But the FJ1 is just oof. Just not the greatest. Not for what I like to play. But yeah. Since they got the mining plant first, they got the capture points. And bam. Automatic win. Because even if I was able to outcap them, the mining plant counts as 2 zones. So if you have 3 zones and they only have the mining plant, then they're still almost keeping up with you. So if they own 2 zones, with one of them being the mining plant, they just win. Guaranteed. And this guy did actually quite well. He must have been camping the... guy did 540 capture points, which is really impressive. He was camping that airfield pretty hard. Which, if I were him, I guess that's not a bad idea. But yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to cover in this Cannon Chat. So hopefully it wasn't too long. And for those of you who watch this, give me some feedback on some of the ideas that I've thrown out in this part, and everything. So with that, thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.